Sorry about that. So diesel filler cap just down there. The bonnet release handle is just here inside the passenger door, and you've got a couple of little electrical bits and pieces down here, but you shouldn't really need to get to any of that really. Tyre pressures are in there. Now this next locker down here is quite important. So if I open this up, this locker down here actually has pretty much everything that you could need for sort of maintenance of the vehicle, if you like. So you start up the top here, so you've got your 2 leisure batteries up here. So obviously having 2 leisure batteries is much better than having just the one. So you've got dual leisure batteries up there. Your freshwater inlet point is just inside here. Freshwater drain off handle and your wastewater drain off handle. The boiler drain, so to use the boiler drain you just twist this top knob here and it will drain all the water out from underneath. Pipe drain, so if you wanted to drain all of the water out completely, just turn this and drain out the last bits of the pipes. And the hookup point goes in here, so when you plug the hookup in you can bring it up through this little hole in the locker and plug it in there so that nobody can get to the hookup whilst it's plugged in, so it's all completely inside. Now this is the only vehicle I've ever seen where it's all in this one locker, and it's, you know, I think it's such a good idea. It makes it so much easier, and it means that there's no, you know, bits and pieces dotted around on the outside, so it makes the outside look much cleaner. But yeah, there you go. So that's where all of the bits and pieces that you can need, all the waste drains, fresh drains, hookups, batteries, all in this one locker down here. This little vent just here is for your boiler. So if you had the boiler lit up on gas, you'd feel hot air pumping out through this. Like I said, because all the drain off points and all that sort of stuff are in that one locker, I would normally have to be getting on the floor and showing you underneath to see the drains and things, but it's all just in that one place. Dual reversing camera, so you can see straight down or straight back. In the garage, I don't really think there's anything to show, to be honest. Got a few bits that the previous owners left behind. The awning winder is this top one just here. You have got a light up here as well, but just loads of storage really. I mean, you can get to the second skin there. So there you go. Gas locker. So you have got space in here for 2 of these 6 kilo propanes. You may or may not be able to fit a 13 kilo as well, I'm not sure. It looks like you probably could, but really you're going to be using these 6 kilos mostly. To turn the bottles on, you go anti-clockwise round to the left to turn it on, and clockwise round to the right turns it off. So you need to turn it off before you start driving, and obviously switch it on before you want to start using any appliances inside. You've got 5 years on the hose, and you've got 2023 days, so you've got till 28 to replace that pigtail hose. And that is about it. So just make sure that you switch it off before you start driving, that's the most important thing. Toilet cassette locker. I'll just close this up so I don't smash around. Toilet cassette locker. It's the newer style toilet cassette, so it's got those nice sort of grey and green colours on it. To actually pull it out, lift up on the little yellow or greeny coloured tab, and that'll pull out. Once you've got it pulled out, you'll then be able to pull it all the way out. All you need to know really is you drain it off from here. When you're actually emptying it out, you should be holding down the little green button there at the back. And once you have drained it out and you want to put it back in, put a cap full of the blue fluid back in here, so your toilet fluid basically, and then swish it around and then put it back. And that is all you have to do. You've got a freshwater flush, which is what this little pipe here is for, which means that you need to have a little bit of fresh water in the tank in order to flush the toilet, but you don't need to worry about any separate flush systems or anything like that. This little thing here is an external gas point, so if you wanted to use that you can do. So this is what people will call your barbecue point. The reason they put it here is because you've got the awning here, so the idea would be to have the awning out have some chairs down here or whatever, and have the barbecue plugged into it just there. The two vents above it, these two here, are for your fridge. So if you got this, you know, if you took one of those out, you'd see all the gubbins for the back of the fridge. You shouldn't ever need to get to any of that, to be completely honest. But if you ever did, all you have to do to actually release them is lift them up and basically pop off. They're quite stiff. Yeah, they are quite stiff. You need two hands really to do it. Push it up and it'll pop off, and then you can just pull it out. So it will look like that actually. So that's what those two vents are for. If I just jump in the cab, where it's quite a lot quieter. So 24,000 miles, so absolutely nothing at all for one of these nice reliable Fiat engines. So you've got a really nice spec in this cab. You've got the Pioneer head unit up there, which I can imagine probably has all the bits and pieces you can want. So you've got USB, aux, I wouldn't be surprised if it's got Bluetooth and all that sort of stuff. I can't quite tell by the sticker there, but you know, it looks like quite a modern one. You've got the air conditioning switch just there. Hazard warning lights. You can lock and unlock the cab from inside. You've got the ASR switch, which they don't always have. 6-speed manual gearbox. So reverse is lift up over to the top left. You've got cruise control from this stalk just here. Your lights turn on and off from this left-hand stalk here, with also your indicators as well. You've got your electric adjusting mirrors, so you can select which mirror you want to move by selecting it like that, and then literally just move this around like a little joystick, and it will just move the mirror around as the way you want it. The reversing camera will come on as soon as you put the ignition on. I'm not sure whether or not we have fitted this one. I actually don't know, but I know that this one, if I just show you, in fact no, I won't show you because I've got all the power on the back. That's a good point. I need to just quickly mention that to you as well. So I'm not sure whether or not it does, because it's a Knaus and it's a German built vehicle, or a continental vehicle anyway. Some of the motorhomes, if you have all the power on the back, like I've got the lights on, I've got all the power on, if you turn the ignition on, it'll get a little bit confused, and try to switch the back end power off and switch between the two. So if you can remember, make sure that you turn the power off in the back end before you put the ignition on and sort of do stuff like that. It just saves any sort of confusion with the electrical systems, but basically you don't need to worry about it too much. It's just that sometimes it can get a little bit confused. Anyway, all I was going to say was the reversing camera will be wired up to a ignition live wire, which means that it will not be on, and you will not be able to turn it on until the ignition is actually switched on. So in other words, you won't be able to drain out your battery power, whilst you're not actually driving and things like that. So that's all been wired up properly. Right, so in the back end, it's all pretty straightforward stuff, but the top quality, top sort of spec of everything. So you got a nice Knaus control panel up here. I'm not sure what company makes these ones. It's probably Sargent, I would have thought, but I'm not sure. I've obviously got this on at the moment because I've got all the lights on, everything's working. So this is actually on at the moment. All the time that it's on is telling us the internal temperature and the external temperature. So you can see that we're like 4 degrees warmer in here than it is outside, and that just goes to show how well these things are insulated and how well they're built. I haven't had the heating on in here, I haven't done anything at all. It's just literally, it's just warmer in here because it's so well insulated. Right, so if I press this I button here, it comes up telling us the vehicle battery voltage and the leisure battery voltage, and I know that that's vehicle because it's got a little picture of a cab, a chassis cab, and this one's got a caravan. So 12.5 volts in both. That is absolutely fine. That's really, really good, especially bearing in mind that I've got every single light in this entire van on, so that is pretty good. The next one we got is the lights. So if I turn that off, these ones will normally stay on because they're your entry lights. But there you go, that's that. In fact, let me just, hold on a minute, that might be your awning light switch. Let's have a look. So the awning light is currently on. So let's see. Yeah, so I'll take that back. So this little switch just here is actually just for your awning light. So I'm assuming that all the lights get their power as soon as you turn the 12-volt power on. So I'll take that back completely. The last one there is your water pump switch. You can see up here, the water pump switch is actually currently on. So if I turn that off, so it's on at the moment, which means that if I come over to the tap, water will come out of the tap. It's not quite as straightforward as that. It might sound a little bit silly that I said that, but it's not quite as straightforward as that. I will explain it in a minute. Back to the little I button, the information button, press it twice and it brings up your fresh and wastewater levels. So we've got about a quarter of a tank of fresh water, which is fine for us to go through and show you how to do it at the moment. So what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do, if I want to start using the heating and hot water and all that sort of stuff, you need to make sure that the boiler is actually full of water. And to do that, you turn your pump switch on, which it already is for me. Come over to your tap, have a little look, make sure which way is hot and cold. It's normally left for hot. Pull the tap. Oh, there you go, it's right for hot. So I pull the tap now. The pump's kicked in. And we've got good pressure at the tap. I go to the other side. Still got good pressure. And I'll switch it off. So what that's proven is that the boiler is full of water and we can go ahead and we can start using it, heating the water up, all that sort of stuff. The reason that means that for a fact is, if I just quickly explain it, the way that the water system works in a motorhome is you've got a hot side and a cold side. The cold side literally just draws straight from the water tank, straight through the pump to your tap. All right, so when you do that, when you're pulling the water through on the cold side, directly from the tank through the pump to the tap. The hot side goes from the tank through the pump, through the boiler, and then to the tap. And that's the same for any of the taps in the whole van. If you're pulling the water through on the hot side, it's going through the boiler. So if you pull the hot water side and nothing comes out, it either means you haven't got enough water in the tank or the boiler isn't full. So you need to make sure that the boiler is full before you start trying to use heat the water up and stuff like that. And the only way to actually do that is just doing what I've just done there and just pulling the water through, making sure there's no air coming out, it's not coughing, spluttering, anything like that. But once you've done that, you can forget it and, just carry on, do what you want to do. But it's just really important that you do that. So I'm going to turn the pump off for now. So this little switch just here, I did notice, I think does the... Oh, that's interesting. So, right. So I've only just realised that actually. So this little switch here does this little handle light here. And a little one down there by the looks of it. So this little switch here does that. But I've just noticed that it only works when you've got your awning light switch on. So if I turn it on, handle switch is on. If I turn this awning light switch off now, that turns off. So this little switch here must be like an entry light kind of idea, so that when you turn that on, the awning light comes on, the handle light comes on, so you can get in the van. That's quite a good idea actually. I'll turn that off for now. Right, anyway, to the right of the control panel, we've got your solar controller. So it's wired up to the engine and the leisure battery, which is absolutely brilliant. So it's just basically telling us the ampage coming in and the voltage that is actually in the batteries. And that is it. So that is what that does. You haven't got to press any buttons on that. You haven't got to do anything. It will just do its own thing. The next one's over here. If I turn those little lights off there. So these two here, they both say Combi on them. The one on the left says Combi E. I have done a video that's a little bit more in depth on this. Well, not more in depth, but just easier to explain sometimes on the, you know, one specific video, but and it's quite high up, so I'm sorry if I'm sort of like moving around a little bit, but right, so the Combi one on the right hand side, the one that just says Combi, is the one that tells the boiler what to do. And so if I go down 1, that gives us heating only, because you've got the little gas symbol, that means heating only. If I go down 2, it gives us heating and hot water at 60 degrees. All right. If I go back to the middle, that turns the boiler completely off. If I go up 1, it gives us hot water at 40 degrees only. And if I go up 2, that gives us 60 degrees of hot water only. So at the moment, because it's not very cold outside, I personally wouldn't want the heating on at the moment. But for example, if it was the morning and I wanted to have a shower, I would still want hot water. So if I wanted hot water and no heating, I'd go up to either 40 or 60, and that gives us hot water only. If it was the winter and, you know, if it was really cold outside, but I didn't actually want any hot water, I could just go down to heating only. And vice versa, if it's the winter and I want hot water and heating, I'd go down all the way to the bottom. The dial in the middle is basically just the temperature dial. It's just essentially how quickly do you want this to work. You know, that's all it really is, to be honest. And that's it. That's all you need to do. So that's the one that tells the boiler what to do. The one on the right that just says Combi, that tells the boiler what you want it to do. The one on the left, Combi E, I like to remember it as Combi Energy. It's probably not what it actually stands for, but that's what I always like to say. So this one here, whatever you tell the boiler to do here, all that this one does is tell it what energy to use. So at the moment, we're sat on gas. All right, so whatever I tell the boiler to do over here, it's going to do it via the gas only. And that's because I haven't got the electric hookup plugged in, so I can't use the electric functionality on it at all anyway. So I have to leave it on gas at the moment. But if I only had an electric hookup plugged in and I didn't have any gas, or the gas wasn't switched on, I could go up 1 or up 2, and that would basically just draw either 4 amps or 8 amps of power from the electric hookup. And so at the moment, if I had it up here on the electric on 2 and I went up to 60 degrees hot water, this will flash up red because it's not actually plugged in. So if I actually had the hookup plugged in, I'd be getting 60 degrees hot water on electric only. Same idea as if I go down to the gas only and go up. Well, you need to leave it for a minute. So now I've got hot water only on gas only. If I was in a real hurry for whatever I was telling the boiler to do on the right, and I had the electric hookup plugged in and the gas switched on, I can go down to the bottom, and that is gas and electric. All right. Now, if I'm honest, you would very rarely need to do that. It's only if you're in a real hurry and you just happen to have both. Most of the time, in my sort of experience, if you're on a campsite and you have the electric hookup plugged in, you might as well just use everything on the mains, in my opinion. So, you know, if you were on a campsite and you had an electric hookup plugged in, if it was me, I would just be sat here on one electric and then just tell the boiler what you wanted to do on here. That just allows you to, you know, the power's already there, and then so in my opinion, you might as well just use it. Same for the fridge. I'll run you through that in a minute, but you can just use the fridge on electric as well. So, you know, that's just my opinion. But if you don't have any electric hookup, leave it there in the middle on the gas, and then just tell the boiler what to do on that. So hopefully that makes sense. I try not to run through it too quickly because it can be a little bit confusing to get your head around, but there you go. This locker up here is quite important. I've actually got it open for, you know, to show you how it all works. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but where is it? Well, there you go. You can probably just about see it. The satellite is currently up and locked on to Astra 2. So it's really simple how to actually use this whole system. So all you have to do to turn it actually on is press this button just here. So Mechatronic So it basically just switches on like that. Sat search, it's already actually locked on, so it will just basically just realize it's locked on and just say satellite found in a minute. But that's all you need to do. Press and hold to turn it on. This will start flashing at you as well, and just leave it and it will find Astra 2 for you. And just give it a minute to actually, because at the moment it'll basically just be spinning around wherever it might be. It'll be spinning around trying to find it, and it will lock on automatically and just tell you here satellite found. So that's really nice having that on there. To put the satellite down, so I'm going to do that now because I actually don't want it left up. I'm just going to press that button there, antenna closing in progress. It'll basically just lay down, it will turn itself around to the right point, lay itself flat and turn itself off. And that is absolutely all you need to do. Antenna closed, turns itself off, and that's it. So that's how you use the satellite system on the roof. Really, really simple, to be fair. So that is all your bits and pieces up there. You probably know that you've got the TV lift up system just here. It's a proper Avtex TV, and you have got this little cover just here that goes on it. I am going to put that back on before the end of the video. I just thought I'd leave it off so I can show you it there. What else have we got? Okay, so this little bit just here opens up quite nicely to give you access to the top of the seat belts here. So you can see there's a proper 3-point seat belt system, and that will be mounted up to the chassis, like, you know, the proper seat belts basically. The law changed a few years before this was made, saying that you have to have proper 3-point over the shoulder belts, so that's why they're there. Paperwork for the van is in this brown box just here. There's absolutely loads of it, so that is that. So the sink, like I said, you need to make sure that you pull the water through just to make sure there's pressure there before you start using the boiler. But to be fair, that is all pretty simple stuff. Once you've done it a couple of times, it's really not that, you know, it's really not that big of a deal. It's not like something that's difficult, or it'll just become practice just to pull the water through. Just see, you know, just say, look, okay, there's pressure there. There's no air in the system. I can go ahead and do whatever I want now. But it is really important, because if you, for example, if you didn't do that and the boiler was empty and you lit the boiler up to heat the water up that's inside of it and there was no water inside of it, what will happen is it will just all overheat, and all the wires, all the bits and pieces there will just overheat. And, you know, the boiler is the most expensive part of this van, so you need to look after it really. And if you don't, then obviously it's gonna cost a lot of money to replace. So that's why it's so important. But there you go. Also, on that point, the only reason that you would actually empty the boiler out, which from that dial that I showed you outside, the only reason you'd actually do that is if you were going to get to a really, really cold temperature, and you wanted to drain the boiler out from the water so that it doesn't freeze. Now that little dial that you got out there, the blue one with the blue button, that is an automatic dropout valve, so it should do it automatically anyway, but it is always good practice just to make sure that it's definitely drained off for the winter if you're not going to use the van. You got your 3-burner hob up here, which has got an ignition just like any household one, so it'll ignite when you push it in. They do sound like this for a few seconds, by the way, these little Dometic ones. They used to be called Kramer. It's just the way they are. So that's how you use that. All right, so try not to look at my ugly mug when I'm up here, but so you've got the grill and oven up here as well. So if I push in around to the right on this, it lights up the grill. Now these grills that are head height are quite nice because you can actually see the reflection down the back, and the reason that's a good thing is because these grills light up on both sides, so it's really important that you make sure the other side is lit up as well. And I can see by looking in that down there, I can actually see that the other side's lit up as well. So that's a really nice thing to have. Turn that off. This door needs to be open when you're using the grill, obviously, just like any household one. And if you push in and around to the left, it should light up the oven. you go. Just leave that for a minute. There you go. Now I know this is small, but it is just a standard kind of large fridge cooker on the top. It's a very standard way of using of these motorhomes being laid out, to be fair. So I'll close this down now. Right, the fridge. So this is a I think they call it a tower fridge, these ones. So it's an automatic energy selecting fridge, or an AES fridge. Now that doesn't mean that you have to leave it on the automatic mode. At the moment, I have got it on automatic, which is why that little A is illuminated in blue. So what I mean by that is, if you leave it on A, it will automatically choose whichever way it thinks is best. Now at the moment, I haven't got the hookup plugged in, but I do have the gas switched on, so it's chosen gas. Okay, so if I turn this off, so I don't know what the best way to explain it is. So basically, what will happen is if I leave it on A, when I turn it back on in a minute, it will see if there's any 240 volt power there, because that really is the best way to use the fridge. It will see if that's there. It will realise there's not any power there. It will then try and light up on gas. It will realise that the gas is on. It will light up and it will stay on gas. All right, that's the process. That's the way it works. If I didn't want it left on automatic, I can turn it off from that and just select which function I wanted to use manually. All right, so the A turns off. As soon as you switch over to something manually, the A turns off. Now, because I've chosen electric hookup, we've got the two lights there flashing at us saying there's no electric hookup there now. I can't, use that energy. So I'll change over to gas. It will light up automatically. No warning lights. It just lights up and stays on. All right, now that'll stay on until you press and hold on this little off button here, and it will turn itself off when you do that. So those two there are the two ways to cool the fridge down initially. They're the only two ways that will get the fridge cold by themselves, and they're the two ways that you have to do it. So if you were going to go on holiday tomorrow morning, I would always advise you cool the fridge down either via the 240 volt or the gas the night before, and then the morning that you go to leave, everything inside the fridge will be cold, and you can just switch over to the 12 volt when you're ready to go. So on that point, if I've pre-cooled this fridge either via the mains or the gas, and I want to start the engine up and drive off, all you need to do is switch over to the 12 volt. Now again, the engine isn't running, so it's not going to work. So if I stop that noise, so essentially you've got two elements in the back of this fridge. So you've got a big one for the 240 and a smaller one for the 12 volt. So the 12 volt will not get the fridge cold by itself, but it will retain the temperature that you put in it whilst you're driving. So that's why you need to pre-cool it either via the electric or the gas, switch over to 12 volt when you're driving, and then switch back to one of these two once you're stopped. If you leave it on automatic, it should switch over to 12 volt for you as soon as you start the engine up. But, in my opinion, I've always thought to myself that it's just as easy just to select it yourself. It's really not hard to just do that. A lot of these fridges don't have the automatic functionality on it at all anyway. But there you go. So that is how you use your fridge. Right, so what else do we have? So there's absolutely loads of lights in this vehicle, and they've all got their own little switches and bits and pieces everywhere. So these buttons here do these lights, so, but you'll find out all of that. You'll work all that out for yourself. You'll know which ones you want and don't want on, all that sort of stuff. The shower light, I will say, it took me forever to try and work out how to use the thing. And I realised it's actually a little touchscreen one, which was quite annoying because I was trying to find a switch for it, and obviously there's not one. So that's what that is. The toilet area, if I just point something out, a lot of these continental built vehicles have got this kind of idea where you can open up the toilet door and lock it in over here. So if I just show you, open this door up, it will actually, it's been purposely built like this so that it will lock in place there. All right, so you can basically open it up as a door And now this entire back end of the van is like a toilet area. You've also got the curtain that comes across here, so that completely shuts off this bedroom area at the back. But I think it's quite a nice idea that you've got the shower and toilet. It makes it into like a bathroom. So that's how that works. The toilet, it's a Dometic toilet, like I said, it's the newer style one. Now it's very, very simple how to actually use it. All you need to do, press the button just there to get your flush fluid pumping around, and then drain it out from here. Putting it out literally drains it into the cassette, close it back over like that. Couple of light switches there. That was about it really. So, the tap here, it's quite a funny looking little tap, but just like that. I think that's about it really. Okay, so that is the bathroom. The bed area, you've got huge storage lockers down here. The carpets are in there as well. A lot of people will put the carpets back down. You know, it does make a difference. It makes the van warmer, stops any more heat coming up from underneath. Cold air, sorry, not heat. But to be honest, this van being double skinned is a real benefit because it stops the immediate weather coming up from the floor just here. You know, most motorhomes really, this floor here that you see will actually be the floor that's directly to the floor. So yeah, it does make a nice difference of being double skinned. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to show you. I don't think there's anything else to show, to be fair. Sorry the video's been in two little pieces, but got cut off at the start there. The only last thing I want to show you is just this little piece here. Now, if I'm honest, I don't actually know exactly why it's being done, apart from to make the bathroom a little bit bigger. But if you take this off, you can actually pull this entire wall piece out. And this will still lock in place. So it kind of makes it flush there then, but like I said, I don't really understand how that makes much of a difference. There's got to be a reason for it, but if I'm totally honest, I don't know what it is. But that is there if you want to use it. So if there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you'd like going through again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.